Do you feel anything has changed today where we sit? Because it's about arrest, they are still there. Detentions, they are still there. The courts, the government's actually disobeying court orders and all that. Do you feel there is any change from the injustice that we are fighting almost 30 years ago, or 50 years, or actually 40 years ago?
Yeah, that's another great question. I see there's been gains made in Kenya since the 70s. And the most important thing to realize is that oppression was resisted. History doesn't record, the resistance that people are engaged in continuously. Like the struggle for the constitution started in the 60s, immediately after independence. When people started saying, well, why are we paying the British for the land they stole from us? That was a big constitutional issue in the 60s that got Pio Gama Pindo and Kagia and Odinga on one side. They basically saying the British stole our land.
Correct.
They used it for 68 years. And then when they are leaving, they say, willing buyer, willing seller.
On your own property.
And it was, so I'm saying the resistance to the post-colonial state and oppression, continued, started right from, independence. But people who are basically saying, this is not right. And the university was the center of it. Then you get the story of J.M. Kariuki, the 7 bearded sisters that I've talked about, the December 12th movement, Mwakenya resistance, okay? And if you look at that history, there's always been resistance. And when there is resistance, what you get are concessions. The IPPG, for example, in 1997, concessions on the freedom of movement, speech, IEBC was changed. The parties were told that they could bring their own people. I remember George Anyona bringing his brother. But you know what happened? The IEBC was bribed by Moi and he still won. But that resistance, I think, is very, very, very important. And it keeps on happening. And that's how the Constitution came into being. Not because they wanted it. It's because the people basically said this status quo is not acceptable and is not sustainable. And when you look at the 2010 Constitution closely, it's about addressing the imperial presidency. It's about the supremacy and sovereignty of people. Okay, it's about a Bill of Rights. That's very progressive, and it's about security, because you mentioned security. That was oppressive, but if you look at section Article 238, if we implemented it, the police, the army, everybody will operate within the rule of law, the Constitution, and respect, human rights. If you look at the issues of finance, national debt, everything is there. Okay, because this is what we are struggling against. When you look at Article 37, you can demonstrate, you can participate in the procession unarmed. And that provision, in my view, expects the police to protect you as you demonstrate, not to tear gas you. They are the ones who give you protection because they are armed, and you are not armed. Okay? So what hasn't changed is this. And, I've said this again and again. A progressive constitution cannot be implemented by very conservative leadership. The people who are implementing the constitution never wanted it at any time. So what they have done, if you look at the issue you were mentioning about village councils and so forth, structuring the so-called provincial administration. Those things, when you look at what the president is doing, is actually knocking down the pillars of the constitution, whether it's devolution, whether it's education, whether it's health. You've seen what has happened during COVID-19. I was shocked by what the leadership did.
Correct.
Asking people to, in Mathare and Korogosho and Kibera, to wash their hands. And yet you
There's
not
no
given
water. There's no water.
And all he needed to do, President Kenyatta, was to disband the cartels that sell water. Because they're the ones that have shut the taps to all manner of places. And use our resources, because they are ours, to give people masks, to give people water.
Correct.
And if there was total lockdown, they would give people food. That is Article 43. That's what you do. The resources are ours. They are not theirs.
It's our money.
But what happened? Only 2 billionaires came through to help
the people.
Mwangi and somebody else. I think South Asian African. These others with their foundations, Jomo Kenyatta, Moi, Kalonzo and Raila, I guess, as all these barons.
We're actually collecting money.
Even the hustlers. And then the worst thing that can happen is you steal what is being given.
Funeral money.
I mean,
uji ya mgonjwa. Nakunywa uji ya mgonjwa.
I mean, that's curse. Our traditions is a curse. You don't do that.
You don't.
So we have a system that is really cursed. Okay, because they have become merchants of death.
That's right.
Okay, when you talk about the counterfeit industry in this country, fake drugs, expired drugs, now KEMSA. We hear about KEMSA. All those fake drugs are probably sold through KEMSA.
Exactly.
And that's why, I tell people, why should we be worried about COVID? Realize the political viruses are worse.
It's worse than the disease itself.
Yeah, there are people who are dying of cholera,
It's killing people faster than
and
COVID.
so forth. Road accidents, traffic accidents, and so forth. If you do the
analysis,
you find that there are more deadly viruses than
corona.
Yeah.